Worldwide Church of God presents The World Tomorrow with Herbert W. Armstrong. Ladies and gentlemen, Herbert W. Armstrong.
For the first time since humanity has been on this earth, we are facing the problem of survival. Whether humanity can survive on this earth. You're living in a world of wars. You're living in a world where governments are being overthrown continually. We've been able to solve the forces and the powers of nature. We've been able to send men to the moon and back. We can build great computers, great technologies, but we can't solve our own problems with ourselves, in our own homes, or with our neighbors, and one nation with another nation. The world today, I know, is headed toward the supreme crisis at the end of this age. I know we don't like to face it. We'd rather get our minds off of it. But it's very important that we face it and we realize what has brought us to this condition. What is the condition in the world and what is causing it, and where are we going from here and what is going to be the future? Because your lives, every one of you, is at stake. Now, I travel around the world as a sort of unofficial ambassador for world peace. I talk with heads of governments regarding their problems. I talk with kings, I talk with presidents, with prime ministers, and other heads in governments and men high in government all over the world.
Is this the first of your series of lectures in Southeast Asia?
Yes, of public lectures it is. I expect to have them in world capitals all over the world.
And could you more or less give us an idea of the subject matters that you're going to discuss?
Well, I'm going to discuss the conditions in the world, especially why we don't have world peace when we should have it. In other words, there is a missing dimension in knowledge that is not being taught. What are we? Why are we? Where are we going? And above all, what is the way? What is the way that would cause all of the things we want? We want peace. We want the comforts of life. We want at least sufficient of everything we need. We should have it.
May 1974 marks an important date in the work of Herbert W. Armstrong, noted American educator and publisher, as the first of a series of public lectures in world capitals began in Manila. Soon, people all over the world will be able to benefit from his lifetime of learning and experiences and his meetings with key world leaders. Since 1967, Mr. Armstrong has been received by Crown Prince Mikasa of Japan, President Anwar el-Sadat of Egypt, President Thieu of South Vietnam, Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi of India, President Suharto of Indonesia, Prime Minister Golda Meir of Israel, President Suleiman Frangi of Lebanon, Prime Minister Sanya of Thailand, Prime Minister Tanaka of Japan, President Marcos of the Philippines, and King Hussein of Jordan. The inscription, "To my good friend Mr. Herbert Armstrong," signed by King Hussein, is a testimony to the warm friendships Mr. Armstrong has developed with world leaders. Emperor Hirohito awarded him the Order of the Sacred Treasure. The Order of the Sacred Treasure is the most prestigious award that can be presented to a non-Japanese private citizen. Another great honor was presented to him by King Leopold III of Belgium.
But I have received one award that I prize very highly from King Leopold III of Belgium, which is one of 4 awards that have been given for the greatest accomplishment toward world peace. Now, the first one was given to General Foch. The second was given to General John J. Pershing, and the third to Premier Clemenceau of France. You may wonder why those men were awarded the prize for world peace. It was because we thought then that World War I was the war to end all wars. I was given the 4th award, and there were only 4, because King Leopold III felt that showing the cause of world wars and the way to world peace is more important than winning a war. So I have been showing the way to world peace. Everything in this world is a matter of cause and effect.
Plain truth clears up the issues. Plain truth brightens your understanding. Plain truth sharpens your outlook. In today's world, you need the Plain Truth magazine. For your free subscription to Plain Truth, call this toll-free number, 800-423-4444. That's 800-423-4444. See for yourself. Plain Truth magazine.
Many attempts have been made to solve the world's problems. One personality who is on a crusade to solve human problems is here with us tonight. Good evening, Mr. Armstrong.
Good evening.
And with him tonight also is his chief advisor, Mr. Stanley Rader.
Good evening.
Mr. Armstrong, in your travels, you have communicated with many people and have been a witness to all of these problems. What is the common problem faced by many in the world today?
The common problem today, I think I could put it in one word, that is self. Everybody is concerned about his own self, what he can get, what he can take, how much he can accumulate. Success is determined in the world today by how much you have, how much you've been able to acquire, accumulate. And that very attitude and that very means of living has caused all of the troubles today.
How did you face this problem?
Well, I presume I'm just about like everybody else, but I've always been interested in the cause of conditions. I made a survey of merchandising conditions back in 1914. It was published in a national magazine, and it evoked quite a lot of interest. In it, I began to learn a lot about the attitudes of people and what conditions are. Then I continued later.
The island nation of the Philippines received Mr. Armstrong with deep respect and warm friendship. Former Vice President Lopez entertained Mr. Armstrong and his party at his residence. Ramon Bagaching, the mayor of Manila, presented him with the key to the city. Secretary of Social Welfare, Dr. Lim, a close and longtime friend, was one of the prime supporters of his public lectures. During this visit to the Philippines, he was again invited to meet with the president and members of his cabinet. President Marcos autographed copies of 2 of his most recent books as a personal gift. He enjoyed the recent Plain Truth magazine featuring an article about the Philippines. A gift of Steuben crystal presented to him by Mr. Armstrong was greatly appreciated and admired by President Marcos. President Marcos gave Mr. Armstrong his personal blessing on the upcoming series of lectures in Manila. Mr. Armstrong received a very special award in the Philippines from Angeles University.
Angeles University, Angeles City, Philippines. Know all men by this presence that Honorable Herbert W. Armstrong, in recognition of his selfless and dedicated service to humanity as a distinguished educator, being the founder, chancellor, president, and chairman of the board of directors of Ambassador College, and as a renowned lecturer of world events for being an advocate of high moral standards, which won him recognition and honor from many world leaders. And by virtue of the authority granted to this university by the Honorable the Secretary of Education and Culture, is hereby conferred the degree of Doctor of Humanities, honoris causa, with all the rights, privileges, and honors thereunto appertaining.
At the University of the East, he was presented a plaque after delivering a speech to the student body and faculty. The International Academy of Leadership gave him an award preceding one of his lectures. The Knights of Columbus honored Mr. Armstrong at a special luncheon meeting. Wherever he went, people wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to meet him personally and ask for his autograph.
I want to emphasize the fact that Mr. Armstrong is a man who is rather unique. And I think almost everybody that has ever met him recognizes that just upon seeing him for the first time. I've been impressed by the fact that people size him up very, very quickly and very correctly. Last September, for example, we were in Lebanon, and we went into the office of the Prime Minister. Now, in Lebanon, the government is a democracy that is divided between the Muslims and the Christians or Catholics. And by constitution, the president has to be a Catholic and the prime minister has to be a Muslim. So we had already seen the president, and we were ushered in to meet the prime minister, who had just returned from the conference in Algiers. And he grasped Mr. Armstrong's hand, and he looked into his eyes, and he said, "Mr. Armstrong, your character can be read just by looking at your face." He said, "Mr. Armstrong, you are a fine man, and you're doing great work. And great men must continue to do great work. Your Secretary of Social Welfare, Mrs. Lim, I think has said it rather well in this brochure that we're going to be handing out tomorrow. She has summed it up rather well when she said, out of a lifetime of sharing his message of love, peace, and brotherhood all over the world, Mr. Herbert W. Armstrong comes to the Philippines, bringing the very challenges which the new society asks from each of us. I sincerely wish him Godspeed as he continues to strengthen the spirit and nourish the soul with the words of God."
The teaching of that way of life began in a very small way in 1934. Today, it has grown into a many-faceted worldwide work, and the world tomorrow has remained a major thrust of that work.
Well, greetings, friends around the world. This is Herbert W. Armstrong in Tokyo, Japan. I have just come from the residence of Prime Minister Tanaka.
The World Tomorrow radio program first aired in January of 1934. It was the development and growth of this program that actually led to the establishing of Ambassador College and the worldwide work Mr. Armstrong is doing today.
In the past 3 years, I've had private meetings with many world leaders, presidents, kings, prime ministers, scientists, educators. They know what a troubled world we live in today.
Since 1934, Mr. Armstrong has analyzed the trends of world news on the World Tomorrow program. Incisive, pointed, and controversial, the program has built a worldwide audience on the hundreds of stations over which it is broadcast. Every month, 80,000 or more people in the U.S. alone telephone or write in response to the radio and television programs. For further discussions of topics introduced by these programs, the Plain Truth magazine is offered. Its research and writing staff have the major wire services available, as well as correspondents around the world. The Plain Truth has a total worldwide circulation of some 3 million copies with an estimated 7 million readers. It is printed in 5 languages: English, Spanish, Dutch, French, and German. Many other publications offer topical discussions of world conditions, home and family life, religious subjects, and answers to the issues of our time. Our overseas press facilities near London, England, distribute the Plain Truth and English language literature to Europe, Africa, and Asia. From Australia and New Zealand, the Plain Truth and other literature are posted to the Pacific nations. Additional offices located in Singapore, Manila, Johannesburg, Jerusalem, Mexico City, and Vancouver, BC, channel information back to Pasadena. Like his broadcasting and publishing activities, Ambassador College is the result of Mr. Armstrong's pioneering efforts to recapture true values.
Now, about 27 years ago, I determined to build a college. I knew that the world was on the getting way. Everybody's out to get all he can, and no matter how much it hurts the other fellow, we're not much concerned in this life about the other fellow, which we should be. And I thought that in education we should be interested in something far more than just intellect only. And in the United States, most colleges and universities are only interested in the intellect. And so I founded a college, not a large college in student enrollment. I think it's large in quality, but not quantity. And it's based on this very theory, on the whole man and not merely just the intellect, on the right principles of living, and on that lost dimension in education, which answers the questions of what are the true values. Well, we teach those values in Ambassador College, and today my greatest happiness and joy is when people visit Ambassador College, they do see a very beautiful campus, but most of all, they see beautiful character in students who are learning these true values, who are learning this way of life.
You're invited to learn more about these important issues through the pages of Plain Truth. This international journal of understanding comes along every month with a penetrating analysis of world news in the light of Bible prophecy. Plain Truth. This full-color monthly publication underscores the importance of biblical understanding in modern 20th century living. Your subscription is free of charge. There is no cost or obligation. Call this toll-free number, 800-423-4444. That's 800-423-4444. The Plain Truth, a magazine of understanding. Mr. Armstrong's lifelong work is now culminating in the series of public lectures in major world capitals, as vast nations who have never heard his message can now be reached.
Well, greetings, everybody. Now, let me ask, how much do you know about the world you live in? Right now, during the time that we're here and while I will be speaking,
Mr. Armstrong spoke to more than 25,000 people in his three-night lecture series in the Araneta Coliseum.
Now, last night, I was talking about the state of the world today, of how it is filled in the world with wars, with violence, more violence than any time since the days of Noah, just before the flood, and that brought a flood on the whole world. Now, what is the solution? I'm going to begin to come to that tonight. Jesus Christ came as a messenger, bringing a message from God. He said he didn't come of himself. His Father in heaven sent him. But he sent him with a message. And this world has rejected that message, and it has not been proclaimed. They preach a message about Christ, but he was only the messenger. And preaching about the messenger is not getting the message over. Now, tonight and tomorrow night, you're going to hear that message. And most of you for the first time in your lives. The government of God was once on this earth, and it was taken away. Now, the Creator began to explain the way of that law and that government to Adam. And he rejected it, and humanity has rejected it ever since. And one of the reasons that God put humanity on this earth was that we learned that, and through humanity and with humanity, the government of God is going to be restored to this earth. And when it is, we're going to have world peace. We're going to have universal happiness and universal plenty and universal intelligence and right education. It's coming, but men aren't going to bring it. It's going to have to be done to us because men have always gone the wrong way. You see, the purpose is really revealed there, but I'm going further into it now. God is reproducing himself. God made us that we can be born into his family. And you never heard anyone else say that. It is not taught by science. It is not revealed by education. Neither is it taught or revealed by religion, of any that I know of. You'll notice I'm not saying anything against anyone's religion. I'm going on beyond it a little bit. God is reproducing himself through man, and through man he's going to restore the government of God to this earth, and then we're going to go further than that. Why were we put on earth? What is our potential? What is man's destiny? It's so much greater than you can possibly believe, that your mind has never conceived it. First verse, first chapter. God, who at sundry times and in different manners spake in the time past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things. Modern translations translate the Greek word all, which is here translated all things, the entire universe. It means all things. It means the entire universe. by whom also he made the worlds, who being the brightness of God's glory, the express image of his person, and upholding all things, upholding the whole universe by the word of his power. You know, I told you a while ago it says that. Well, there it is. Second or the third verse. That is the living Christ today. He's still alive. Now come to the second chapter and begin with verse 6. But one in a certain place testified, saying, and this is quoted from the Psalms, "What is man that thou, God, art mindful of him?" What are you? What am I? Well, I think just about as near nothing as I could be. And you aren't so much either, are you? What are we? Why is God concerned about us? When we learn our lesson, brethren, we may be born into the family of God. And if you want to know what you'll look like Christ does now. In the first chapter of Revelation it says, his eyes are like flames of fire, and his face, his countenance shines like the sun in full strength. That's not the way we look now. That is our potential. It's so many million times greater than you ever thought before that I know your mind can't contain it. But it's in this word, and this word is sure, whether we believe it or whether we don't. The potential ahead of us is so great, you can't imagine. Now, conditions on this earth are going to get worse for a while. We haven't seen the worst yet. But God is not going to let it get to the place where man annihilates man from this earth. It's going to come just about to that place, and then God is going to step in, and he's going to stop this hellish mess, and he's going to send Christ. And with all of the power of the great God to restore peace and restore the government of God once again to this earth based on the law of God. And that law is love. And there's going to be love, and that's the greatest hope I can point out to you. That is your heritage.
For the free literature offered on this program, write Herbert W. Armstrong, Pasadena, California, 91123. In Canada, Box 44, Vancouver, BC. Or in the continental United States, you may call this toll-free number, 800-423-4444. That's 800-423-4444. In California, dial direct 213-577-5225. The preceding program and all literature were produced by the Worldwide Church of God.